go over a couple of real basic concepts about scoliosis. So you've heard me say many times that one of the most basic concepts for scoliosis, for actually any spine condition, is decompression and elongation. And I'm looking to see, hi Annette, because I can see your comments. This is great. Thanks for those of you that are on live and listening. So spinal elongation, self-elongation, decompression are key concepts in the Schroth method for scoliosis, the Sayaz method for scoliosis, it's the German and Italian methods, and also in Iyengar yoga. So we employ those concepts of self-elongation all the time. One of my favorite ways to demonstrate why that is so important is with my lovely yoga belt right here, okay? So we say in all of those different methods, Schroth, Sayaz, and Iyengar yoga, we say that we want to create a sense of self-elongation from a stable pelvis. So what does that mean, okay? So here's the pelvis, okay? So pelvis, let's say this is a left lumbar curve and a right thoracic curve. And then here's this person's very strange head, okay? So we've got an S curve, okay? So I would ask you then, knowing that part of your curve is structural, meaning that's the shape of your spine, we can't change that, and part of it is postural, that's the part that we can still move and work with. What do you think I'm going to ask you to do to start to affect that, to decrease the size of those curves? If you have a thought, write it in the comments. Hi, Robin. And no cheating for those of you that have worked with me before, like you, Robin. So basically, people will often say, well, let me move the curve. Let me, if this one is poking out to the left, let me move it over. And then here, if I try to move it over, you can see that I'm just changing the curves. I'm making them into a different shape. I'm not really decreasing them. If I try to decrease the right thoracic by pushing it over that way, I'm just creating other curves, right? So let me look in the comments. That was Robin laughing. Okay, so what do we do? How do we approach this in a way that's healthy for the spine and takes care of your joints while you're trying to minimize the postural component of your curves? So we say we want to work from a stable pelvis. So I will, actually in my past posts, I talk about that, but I'll come back to it in a second. So you want to create a stable pelvis, which means it's not moving, it stays put, okay? Then we create a sense of elongation and self-elongation. So let me just pause here a moment before my demo. Passive traction, like being on a traction machine or hanging from your feet or something like that, doesn't always behave the way we think it's going to. So that's why we want active elongation. We call it self-elongation. So stable pelvis, and then watch what happens with the curves in the belt when I create this lengthening. So it's the only way that you can decrease the curve is by increasing the distance between the pelvis and the top of the spine, okay? So that's the concept that is the basic foundation for Schroth, Sayaz, and Iyengar yoga. So it's not about stand up straight and people go into this banana where they overarch. It's really about creating stability. So let me look at the comments. Annette says, yes, derotate the major curve. So derotation is a key component with both Schroth, Sayaz, and Iyengar yoga. But first, you want to create self-elongation. So if we have a rotation, if we have a large, curve to the side, which either side, and we start to just work with the derotation and unbending of the curve, we end up creating shearing and not so nice pressures on the joints, ligaments, and even the muscles, right? So that's why you first want to create self-elongation, and then we start to work with some of the side-to-side corrections, including derotations using the breath. We use the breath a lot in all three of those methods. Okay, so in standing, the way that I create a stable pelvis is I cue the weight in your feet a lot. So having somebody stand and just feel the weight in the feet. If you feel like you're way forward on the balls of the feet, you would bring yourself back so that it's spread throughout the whole foot, including the heels. And then from there, elongating, reaching up through the crown of the head without doing something, without doing this, right? So I'm just kind of creating this overarch. So the self-elongation would be keeping the weight in the heels, using your breath to make yourself longer. It's one of the reasons in Schroth we use these poles. No more comments? We use these poles as one of many props to help facilitate that action. And it's not to push them into the floor really hard and make yourself taller, but it's to almost give you a place to sort of hang your arms, expand out through the chest, and kind of come up the middle, make yourself taller. So we do all this elongation work first before you start to work with the side bending and derotation. We put these here. And then I'm just going to move this over. So when we're doing seated work, okay, so I turn my back to you. When we're doing seated work, you know, you don't have to have bars. There's all kinds of ways to work around that. So hopefully you can see my pelvis on the chair. And again, you guys look back at the other videos I've posted because I've gone over seated elongation. It's basically the same thing. So keeping the weight heavy in the buttocks as you elongate up. So not doing it would be, I would kind of roll forward and arch my back. So I keep weight heavy in the buttocks, which is the same as creating a stable pelvis. And then elongate up through the crown of the head, shoulders away from the ears. And then I would use my breath to start doing my corrections. So working on derotation, working on expanding into the side that's a little bit more closed. So that's where you would want to have that knowledge and awareness of the shape of your spine and the type of curve you have, because two people can have an S curve that goes the same way and still require slightly different ways of working on correction. So it really is helpful to have somebody with extensive training take a look at your spine and help you figure out all those details. So I hope that helps.